Hi, I'm John Ficarra. Welcome to Ficarra Classic. I'm here with the irrepressible and master drifter mechanic Matt. Say hi, Matt.
Hello, Matt.
There we go. Now we're back from the summer break, and we figured the best way to get things going was to give you an update on the Rocky Aoki Porsche 911 Twin-Targa Limousine behind us. And when we left you last time with it, we showed you what we were taking off of it. Now it's time to put it back together again. And we left you also with the issue of what engine we were going to put in it. We've solved that problem, and we're going to show you that surprise right now. First, I'd like to thank everyone who put in comments and suggestions and arguments in my Instagram account and in the comment section of the other videos about what engine to put in this car. And there were some great suggestions, and I really listened to all of them. But what I really wanted, absolutely wanted, was to put a Porsche engine in a Porsche. As much as this thing is an abomination, I think it deserves a Porsche motor. Now, where do I get a motor from? If you get a motor for a car like this, you got to get it from somewhere that's as strange as this car. And I found that place. It was the Rudi Klein Junkyard Auction down in LA a few weeks ago. And I'm sure some people have already seen it. Tavish did a wonderful video on it. There's been a lot of coverage on it. It was madness down there. And it was a crazy, crazy place. Stacks of 356s, stacks of 911 bodies, and they had Muras and a 300 SL alloy body, and prices were off the charts. But they had a lot of engines there. A lot of engines. And I'm like, this is the place to get the motor, is from the Rudi Klein Junkyard. So I got one. Now, what did I get? Let's take a look. I had it shipped up here, and it was delivered, and here it is. What is it? Well, let's unwrap it together, because I haven't seen it. I bought it sight unseen. A friend of mine looked at it for me, but I've never seen this motor before in my life, and I spent a good chunk of money on it. So you and I are going to unwrap this engine, and you're going to find out what I bought for the 911 Limousine. Here we go. All right. They always put enough of this stuff on here, but it's Christmas at Ficarra Classic. It's an early Christmas. Now, there were a lot of engines to choose from at the auction. They had racks of 911E and T motors. Just stacks of them and pallets of engines everywhere. And the people were buying them in lots of like 3 or 4. But this engine was sold individually because it was one of the nicer motors and more complete motors. I wanted something that was complete because hunting down parts for these can be an issue. You never know what you're going to get. So I was trying to find a motor there that had all the ancillaries on it. And this one did. And I got it for a pretty good price. And I've been looking at these engines for a while. And made sure I got a pretty good deal. People were paying attention to the big dollar cars. I don't think they were paying attention to the motors as much. And here we go. Have you guessed what it is yet? I know there's a few clues for the Porsche files out there. They probably already know what this motor is. But we'll get closer and closer. I think this shot here, where Matt's standing right now, should be a dead giveaway of what it is. And I gotta say, the shipping company that helped me out with this did a really great job of boxing it up and getting it to me and sending me videos of it, and I really appreciate those guys. And here it is. This is a 1978 3.3 liter 930 motor, which means it's a turbo. There were a few of the turbo engines there. There were actually 3 complete turbo engines there. There was a 76, a 77, and a 78. Now, why did I get the 78? 76 and 77. The turbo started to be made in 1975. And when they came out, they were 3-liter engines. And they put out about 260, 65 horsepower, I think 240 in the United States. Came to the US in 76. So 76, 77, the turbo, or the Turbo Carrera, what it was called at the time, that was the ultimate 911. And they upgraded it in 77, late 77, as a 78 model to this engine. They went from a 3-liter to a 3.3-liter engine, but more importantly, they added this right here. And this is an intercooler. Now, for those who are not in the turbo world, what an intercooler does is the hot air, so the turbo basically is spun by the exhaust gases. The exhaust gases are super hot, right? So they get the turbo super hot, which is also spinning at multiple thousands of RPMs, and all that resistance, all that heat builds up, but it's compressing air on the other side. The air has to go through that insanely hot atmosphere and gets pumped into the engine. And the hotter it is, the less efficient it is. You want to cool it off. So those 76 and 77 motors were just pumping hot air in. The difference was it passes the air now through this, which is essentially a little radiator for the air. And it's what's called an intercooler. And the intercooler cools it off. This particular intercooler dropped the intake temperatures by about 130 degrees, which is significant, and brought the power up to about 300 horsepower. So in Europe, these put out 300. I think in the US, with emissions and things, they were like 265. There was one later power package that came out for the early cars, and those were like about 330 horsepower. So we should be able, once we get it all outfitted, we should be able to get 300 horsepower out of this pretty easily, which would be great for the limo. And so this, again, this is the first time I'm looking at it. It doesn't look that bad. I mean, it looks complete. It's really dirty. But we've got the air conditioning on it. Now, I don't know whether or not we're going to have the wherewithal to get air conditioning working on the limo, but I'm sure our passengers would like that. Let's see what we got going on back here. They move these things around. Now, this engine wasn't originally on a pallet. They were just on these racks. So it could be, we might have a little damage here or there. I'm going to put on my glasses because I'm old so I can take a closer look. But yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, the clutch is still on it, which is going to protect the whole back of the engine, which that's nice. And that looks old. Okay, we're gonna get this up and blast it, I think, today. Back here we've got, so this is your air cleaners in there, you get your intake there. This is Bosch K-Jetronic injection, and this was pretty revolutionary for the 70s. And it's a CIS system, so it's continuous injection system, which is a lot like what's on my Audi. We know how to work on these, but that's the fuel distributor up there. That'll probably definitely need to be rebuilt. Yeah, it's just caked with, I don't know if you can see, but like, packing material and dust and gunk. And what you can't see is what this thing smells like. And yeah, I can only imagine what that entire junkyard smelled like. If it's just the engine here has a certain scent, which we will clean off. But, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it looks like this was literally just pulled out of a car. There's a few pieces missing here. Not too bad. But I think I got a pretty good deal. I think I got a pretty good engine. Now, next step is we're going to clean it off. We're going to blast it off, get it as clean as we can. And the next step is to see if it fits in the car. The 911 body was designed for a 2-liter, 130 horsepower engine, not this monstrosity. So there were changes made to the 930 cars, the turbos. The turbo you'll see back in the day, like the Turbo Carrera had with the famous, what was called the whale tail that came off the back. And that was there essentially to make room for some coolers, but it wasn't an intercooler yet. When they came out with the intercooler, they went to what was called the T-tray, which is a bigger tail. And that bigger tail was there to house the intercooler. So that's why it was one of the reasons you had the downforce from the tail, of course, but that was there to make room for all of this equipment. The 959 body kit on this is more based on a regular 911 deck lid, and I don't know if we're going to have room for all of this, but let's stick it in and see how it fits. We can always start taking stuff off, but that's the next step. So let's go wash it and then stick it in the car and see what we've got. Okay, before we prepare to put it in the car, let's take a look at some of the things we discovered while we were cleaning it, because cleaning something really lets you get your hands on it, really eyeball every piece of it. And again, it was covered in 1 inch of dust and dirt. But really, it came out pretty clean. I mean, these aren't black. Yes, they are aluminum. And then the exhaust, the AC compressor, the distributor, everything looks good. The turbo looks good. It's frozen, so I expected that since this was open. So we'll have to rebuild the turbo. Not a big deal, we'll get a new one. The wastegate here is enormous and old school, but I love them. I always love these, these looked. Matt suggested maybe we put one of these on the Corona, which would be hilarious since we had to put a new turbo on the Corona race car, but not that one. We did take the clutch off. And it was a bit of a struggle. It required some percussive maintenance to take care of it, and that's over here. And it's completely understandable that over the years that these things would rust and be completely fouled up from sitting around forever, but it is a nasty, beat up old clutch, and you can see the flywheel back here where it was all rusting to it and mount to it. Now, all this is easy to fix. You just can clean up a flywheel if this flywheel is savable, or we'll get a new flywheel, not an issue. But the engine's pretty good, I'm pretty excited. We'll take the air cleaner off here, and it's on our little rolling stand. I think the next step is just we're gonna roll it in, lift it up and drop the car on it, which is what they did back in the day, which is the beautiful thing about 911 motors, is they just come together. Just put them on a lifting stand. So we're just gonna slide it in, see if it fits, see what hits, and see what we've got. So let's go try that right now. Okay, the engine is in thanks to the miraculous marvel that is Mechanic Matt. We got it into the car. Now we had to remove the intercooler to get it in, and we had to remove the AC compressor, but it is in the car. We put the intercooler back on the car just so you can see what our issues are here, and it's pretty big. Now if you come across the side, you can see our issue. Now this is the normal coach line of a 911. That's where the hood lid would be, but you can see how much the intercooler sticks up. And that was the reason for the T-tray spoiler on the turbos. So if we try to close this with its more crazy 959 lid, it comes down about there. Because if you look up here, you can see this is just like a regular 911 lid, essentially, with a 959 wing on the back. So it's not gonna have enough room for the intercooler, and we kind of felt that's maybe what it was gonna be. And it's not an insurmountable problem. This isn't fall and kill me. There we go. So we can do something about this. The intercooler can be moved. And in the actual 959, the twin turbos, they had the intercoolers right in the back of the fender wells. So we might be able to move this intercooler, well, not this one, maybe something else, in the fender well here, since we've got all the room of the 959, we could maybe take a little bit of replumbing. Now, the more plumbing you have on a turbo, especially through the intercooler, it causes more turbo lag. So we might have to trade turbo lag for packaging in this case, but it's a limousine. I'm not worried about picking up the speed incredibly quickly. So that's not a problem. So I think this is all fixable. We can totally do this because I don't think I want to change all the fiberglass and change the crazy look of the 959 just to package the intercooler. I'd rather move that. So we'll see if that fits and we can fit all the plumbing down in there. That'll be the next step. So now we'll take the engine out. We're going to take the transmission out, and the car itself needs to have the metalwork finished. And that's the next video. We're going to show you all the great metalwork we've been doing. We've been working with Dave Stoltz, and he's been helping us tear out the metal in the front and put in fresh metal. Matt's been doing a marvelous job working on that. We have a new TIG welder coming in, and we'll get all of that buttoned up. Once that's done, the chassis, the body, will all be shipped off to Sway Industries in Montana. You might know Sway from VinWiki and our trip up to the Arctic with the Grey Cayennes. They have been really nice. They're going to work with us and paint and do the body work for the car. Gear Shift Garage will be covering all of that up there, our good friend Trevin. So that's going to be a lot of fun. While that's all getting done and painted and body worked up there over the winter, we'll have the engine and transmission here, and we'll be working with Tom Amon, famous 911 mechanic, 935 driver, on rebuilding this engine and getting the transmission ready for the motor. So hopefully, in the spring, when the snow thaws and we can get something out of Montana, the car will come back, we'll be able to put the mechanicals in the car, and hopefully have something that's running by summer. That's the hopes and prayers. So great, that's where we're at. Well, we're back. I'll have more content for you soon. We'll do the bodywork video coming up very soon. We'll show you that. But thanks for sticking with me. Again, like, subscribe, ring the bell, all those. Tell your friends. I appreciate it. And have a great day, and I'll see you soon.